We won't be needing you this time, mother-in-law, but make sure you leave the house clean." Valerie's words, brittle and sharp, hung in the air like stale cigarette smoke, souring the clean scent of lemon polish. It wasn't just the command, it was the tone, that saccharine lilt, paired with the crooked smile she reserved for dismantling my dignity in my own home. My fingers, still damp from a dish that wasn't mine to dry, tightened around the porcelain plate. Valerie glided past, her $2,000 designer suitcase my savings, though she'd never acknowledge it trailing behind her like a loyal pet. Ryan, my son, my boy, stood by, head bowed to his phone, oblivious, or perhaps willfully blind, as his wife reduced me to a housekeeper. "Did you hear me, Amelia?" Her voice, now laced with an impatient edge, snapped my name like a leash. "The house clean. The floors, the bathrooms, and please don't touch our things." Our things. In my house. The injustice coiled in my gut, hot and bitter, but I merely nodded, a habit cultivated over 2 years of silent capitulation. Because that's what mothers do, isn't it? We stay quiet. We endure. We forgive. Endlessly. Just as the silence threatened to crush me, Ryan finally lifted his gaze. "Mum, are you okay?" The question, so tender, so out of place, almost broke me. I wanted to scream, to ask him when I'd ceased to be his mother and became merely furniture in his marriage. Instead, a fragile smile touched my lips. "Of course, honey. Have fun." The children, innocent and untainted, offered a brief reprieve. Mason, 12, squeezed me with a strength that belied his age. "I'm going to miss you, Grandma." Luna, the youngest, pressed a sweet kiss to my cheek, her voice a hopeful whisper. "Why don't you come with us?" Valerie's hand shot out, yanking Luna away. "Because your grandmother has things to do here. Let's go." The door clicked shut with a brutal finality, echoing the sound of my emptying soul. The sudden silence was a physical weight, pressing me down onto the nearest chair. My gaze fell upon the house keys on the table, keys they now used as if they were their rightful owners. In that moment, something inside me shattered. But this time, it wasn't the familiar ache of pain. It was the electrifying clarity of revelation. I rose, a new resolve hardening my spine, and walked toward my bedroom, or what was left of it. It was the guest room now, surrendered years ago for their family's needs. From the drawer where important papers lay, I pulled out the deed to the house. My name. It had always been in my name. My hands trembled as I reached for the phone, not from fear but from a tremor of burgeoning power I hadn't felt in decades. I dialed a number I swore I'd never touch again. "Cecilia," I managed when a hesitant voice answered. "It's me. It's Amelia, and I need help." A long, stunned silence stretched across the line. Then my sister's voice, the one I hadn't heard in 15 years, came through, clear and laced with concern. "Sister, what happened?" I closed my eyes, a single tear tracing a path through the dust of old regrets. "What happened," I whispered, "is I stopped being myself, and this time I'm going to get myself back." Without another word, I hung up. Ryan's car, a distant blur, turned the corner at the end of the street. 7 days. 7 days until they returned. And when they did, nothing, absolutely nothing would be the way they had left it. Because sometimes, the only way to reclaim your life is to close the door on the people who turned it into their own territory. That night, sleep was a forgotten luxury. I sat in the living room, a cup of chamomile tea growing cold in my hands, my gaze fixed on the walls of what was once my sanctuary. There's a moment in every woman's life when she stops seeing herself in the mirror. Not from age, but from an insidious invisibility, a slow fading, until even she can no longer recognize the woman she was. I hadn't always been this ghost. Amelia Cortez. The name once commanded respect, a quiet strength. At 28, I was a widow, Ryan a boy of 5. David, my husband, snatched away in a heartbeat on the highway to Denver, a truck, a curve, and my world cleaved in two. No savings, a child, and rent to pay, yet I didn't crumble. I couldn't afford such indulgence. With the $95,000 from David's life insurance, a sum that felt like a king's ransom then, I opened Amelia's stationery. It was humble, no frills, but it was mine. For 30 years, that shop was my second child. From 7 in the morning to 8 at night, I sold notebooks, pens, copies. I knew every customer by name. Mrs. Lucy with her weekly poster board for her grandkids. Mr. Arthur, who trusted only me with his legal documents. That shop paid for Ryan's private school, his new uniforms each year while I wore the same blouse for 3 seasons. English lessons, computer classes, everything I'd never had. When college loomed, I sold my faithful 2005 Nissan Sentra, still purring like a kitten for his engineering tuition. "Mum, you'll see," Ryan would promise, as I ironed his presentation shirts. "When I graduate, I'm going to pay you back for everything." And I believed him. Because that's what mothers do. We believe. After graduation, I secured a loan for $180,000, a down payment for his first apartment. "It's an investment, Mom," he'd insisted. "When I sell it, I'll pay you back with interest." I signed, my heart swelling with pride, my mind unburdened by doubt. 2 years later, he sold it. I never saw a cent. "I invested it in a business, Mom. It's going to make us much more money. Just be patient." Then came Valerie. The first time I saw her, a chill ran down my spine, a premonition I couldn't shake. It wasn't her expensive clothes or clipped diction. It was the way her eyes lingered on my home, my shop, on me. As if appraising everything for its market value, calculating what she could extract. But Ryan was enchanted. And when a son falls in love, a mother steps aside. Their wedding cost $32,000. I contributed $8,500. "So your son can have the special day he deserves," Valerie had purred, selecting the most lavish venue. I closed my shop for 3 days, took out another loan, and handed over the money. At the ceremony, I was relegated to a back table, beside distant, unfamiliar cousins. Ryan, caught in the whirlwind of photographs, barely offered a nod. As I watched my son dance with his new wife under those glittering lights I'd helped pay for, I felt myself begin to fade, to disappear. 3 years later, Ryan stood in my living room pleading. "Mum, we need your help. With the baby, Valerie can't work. Could we stay with you for a few months?" "Of course, honey, this is your house." Months bled into years. My house became theirs. The stationery shop, my lifeblood, I sold a year ago. Valerie had convinced Ryan it was time for me to rest. "You've done enough, mother-in-law. Now we'll take care of you." But no one asked if I wanted to rest, if I longed for the jingle of the shop bell, the scent of fresh ink, the easy conversations with customers who felt more like family. The $340,000 from the sale? Ryan invested it in his business. Valerie bought modern furniture for my living room. I was left with a paltry $143,000 in an account I rarely touched because every time they needed something, there I was. I stared at my reflection in the dark window of the living room. A 67-year-old woman, hair pulled back in a loose grey ponytail, clad in a robe that had long seen its best days. When had I stopped being Amelia? When had I become simply the mother-in-law? "Mum, I need money." The woman who cleaned bathrooms she didn't use and cooked meals no one appreciated. That night, in the profound darkness of my own home, something fundamental shifted. I remembered the woman who, fear in her heart, but stubborn resolve in her spirit, had opened a stationery shop with a child in her arms. The woman who never gave up, not when the bank denied her first loan, not when customers were slow to arrive, not when the nights seemed endless. That woman was still there, buried deep, quiet, forgotten, but undeniably alive, and it was time for her to emerge. Because you can strip a woman of everything, her house, her money, her time. But there is one thing you can never steal from her: the moment she decides she's had enough. The next morning I woke with a clarity I hadn't tasted in years. The sun, a golden balm, streamed into my room. The guest room, I corrected myself, a bitter internal whisper. For the first time in an eternity, I didn't rise thinking of their needs. I rose thinking of mine. I made coffee, not the instant sludge Valerie preferred, but the good beans I'd hidden in the very back of the pantry, the kind she'd declared a waste of electricity to grind, mother-in-law. The rich aroma filled the kitchen, and I closed my eyes, breathing in the scent of freedom. I retrieved an old notebook, a relic from the shop, and began a slow pilgrimage through the house. My house. But this time, I didn't see it through the resigned eyes of a compliant mother. I saw it through the sharp, discerning gaze of an owner who had been dispossessed without even realizing it. I started in the living room. The sleek, modern grey sofa Valerie had bought with their business money dominated the space. My wooden rocking chair, the one David had given me for our 5th anniversary, was crammed in the hallway, buried under boxes of the children's toys. I sat in it. It creaked, a mournful whisper, as if asking, "Where have you been?" Rocking chair, mine, I scrawled in the notebook. Next, the dining room. A new glass table, all sharp angles and reflective surfaces, which Valerie called modern. My pine table, where Ryan had spent 12 years doing homework, where we'd celebrated birthdays with cake and colourful candles, was banished to the junk room. I found it covered in dust, one leg wobbly. My hand brushed the surface, and I felt something carved into the wood. R plus Sem. You are love. Ryan and Mom. He'd etched it with a nail when he was 8. I'd scolded him but secretly adored it. Now, to them, it was just junk. Pine table. Mine. I moved upstairs to the master bedroom. My bedroom. The one I'd shared with David for 15 years. The king-sized bed swallowed the room, a monstrous new addition Ryan and Valerie had bought with $3,200 borrowed and never repaid. Its sheer bulk mocked the cramped space. The walls, once a sky blue chosen to echo happier days, were now a sterile, joyless grey. I pulled open the closet door, my breath catching. My own clothes were compressed into a pathetic sliver of hangers, while the rest, an opulent display of Valerie's dresses, shoes and purses, dominated the space. 22 pairs of shoes, I counted. 22. I owned 3. A cold dread trickled down my spine as I reached for the top drawer where my important documents usually lay. Instead, my fingers brushed against a thick folder. Inside, nestled amongst printouts, were emails. The first line seared itself into my vision. Ryan, my love. I already convinced your mum to lend us another $8,500 for the business. She's so naive. A bitter laugh, silent and acrid, rose in my throat. She didn't even ask what for. I told her it was for expansion, and she gave it to me without a thought. With this, it's $21,500 she's given us, and the best part is she thinks we'll actually pay it back. Below, a laughing emoji glowed, its digital malice mocking me. My hands, suddenly frail, trembled, and the paper slipped through my fingers. I took a ragged breath, forcing myself to scoop up the page. The words that followed were a hammer blow. I already spoke to the notary. If your mum signs the power of attorney, we're going to give her to speed up the will. We can put the house up as collateral for the loan. She won't even notice. It's our chance to get the money we need. I've almost got her convinced. I sank to the floor, the cold tile a welcome anchor, and finished reading the blueprint of their betrayal. My own bedroom floor became the stage for the unveiling of how my daughter-in-law and my son planned to strip me of the last thing I owned. No tears came. They had bled me dry of those long ago. I gathered the folder, tucked it into my purse, and walked away from the sterile grey. The garden, my sanctuary for 20 years, the earth where I'd lovingly planted roses, jasmine and bougainvillea, was unrecognizable. Now a garish plastic slide stood sentinel over a deflated inflatable pool. My terracotta pots lay shattered next to the overflowing trash can, the roses within them withered into brittle husks. I picked up a single pot. A clutch of soil remained. I squeezed it, feeling the damp, dark earth yielding under my fingers. It still held life. Mine. Back in the kitchen, I opened the cabinets. My mother's porcelain dishes, a fragile legacy, had been shoved to the very back, eclipsed by sleek modern IKEA stoneware. I pulled one of my mother's plates from the stack. A fine crack spiderwebbed across its surface, a battle scar from when Valerie had screamed, "You cook with too much salt, mother-in-law, this is inedible." That day, the plate had shattered and I, too, had broken in silence. Now I held it like a precious artifact. Mom's dishes, mine. For 3 hours, I conducted a meticulous inventory, counting every item they had usurped, diminished, or carelessly discarded. 17 things that were mine, pushed aside, hidden, forgotten. But at the very end of my list, penned with a sudden resolute hand, was an 18th item. Amelia Cortez, mine. The empty living room echoed with my resolve. The folder of emails lay beside me, my inventory notebook open on my lap. I picked up the phone. Cecilia answered on the first ring. "Sister," I said, my voice steady. "I need you to come over." A heartbeat of silence, then her voice, firm and clear. "I'm on my way. Give me an hour." I hung up, a strange lightness filling the space. This house, I realized, had been my prison. But prisons only held you if you failed to see the key in your own pocket. And I had just found mine. Sometimes the first step to reclaiming oneself isn't a confrontation. It's recognizing what still remains, enough to begin anew. Cecilia arrived exactly 53 minutes later. I watched her pull up in a simple, well-maintained white Versa, a leather briefcase tucked under her arm, sunglasses shielding her eyes. She removed them before ringing the bell. When I opened the door, 15 years of unspoken words hung heavy between us. 15 years since we'd seen each other. My little sister stood before me, hair cropped shorter, streaks of grey gracefully woven in, but her brown eyes, those familiar piercing brown eyes, were unchanged. "Amelia," she said simply. "Cecilia." We didn't embrace. The chasm of time and silence was too wide. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. She moved slowly, her gaze sweeping every corner of the house. By the mantel, she paused at a framed photo. Ryan, a gap-toothed boy at his elementary school graduation. Me beside him, smiling in my work uniform. "You look happy there," Cecilia murmured. I was. In the living room, I poured us coffee. My hands still trembled, not from fear but from the storm I was about to unleash. "Sister," Cecilia began, placing her cup precisely on the coaster, 15 years ago, you slammed the door in my face. You said I only wanted your money, that I was jealous, that Ryan was right about me. Do you remember?" I closed my eyes. The memory was an open wound. "I remember." "Then tell me, what changed? Why now?" I pushed the folder across the table. Cecilia opened it, her jawline hardening with each passing page. When she finished, she closed the folder with a sharp, echoing snap. "Sons of—" She stopped herself, took a deep, shaky breath. "Amelia, this is attempted fraud. Did you sign that power of attorney?" "No, not yet. But Valerie said it was to make things easier when I couldn't manage my own affairs. She said all families did it." Cecilia's eyes closed, her head shaking slowly. "Amelia, if you had signed that, they could have sold this house, taken out mortgages, emptied your accounts, all legally, because you would have given them the power to do it." The silence that followed was dense, suffocating. "There's something else you need to know," Cecilia said, her voice laced with an old weariness. 15 years ago, when you stopped speaking to me, it wasn't about your money. It was because I told Ryan no. I stared, confused. "What?" "Your son came to my house. He was 26. He said he was in trouble, needed money urgently, for a business that would change his life. He asked me for $120,000. He said you'd refused him. I felt the floor shift beneath me. I had just started my law practice, Cecilia continued. I didn't have that kind of money, but I took out a loan. I gave him the $120,000. He had me sign a promissory note. He promised me he'd pay me back with interest in 6 months. She paused, her gaze fixed on mine. Amelia, I never saw a dollar. Not one. When I went to find him, Valerie, they were dating then, she kicked me out of their apartment, called me a gold digger, said I was making things up to get money, and Ryan just watched from behind her and said nothing. He let her insult me. Tears, hot and sharp, finally traced paths down my cheeks. Why didn't you tell me? I tried. Don't you remember? I came to your house, to the shop. I said, Amelia, we need to talk about Ryan. And you yelled at me. You said I was jealous, that I'd always envied you. Ryan had filled your head with lies. He told you I was inventing fake debts to blackmail him. I covered my face, a sob escaping. Oh my God, Cecilia, I didn't know. I know. She reached across the table, taking my trembling hands in hers. That's why I'm here. Sister, for 15 years I was angry with you, but I missed you every single day. And when you called me yesterday, I knew you had finally opened your eyes. Forgive me, I whispered. The only thing to forgive is that I didn't fight harder to make you see the truth. But now we can fix this. How, Cecilia? He's my son. I know, and I don't want you to lose your son, but I can't stand by and watch them destroy you. She opened her briefcase, pulling out a tablet. I specialize in family and property law. What I'm about to tell you isn't easy, but you need to hear it. This house is in your name, right? Yes. David and I bought it 35 years ago. When he died, it was fully mine. Does Ryan pay rent? Do you have any kind of lease agreement? Anything legal authorizing him to live here? No. I just told them they could stay. Cecilia nodded. Then legally you have every right to ask them to leave. It's your property. And with these emails, we have evidence of intent to commit property fraud. If we had to, we could even file a report. I don't want to put my son in jail, Cecilia. I know, and it doesn't have to come to that. Cecilia's eyes burned into mine. But do you want to keep living like this, being the maid in your own house, waiting for the day they ask you to sign a paper that leaves you on the street? I didn't answer. The answer was already a searing truth within me. You have 7 days before they come back, Cecilia continued. 7 days to get your house back, your life, your dignity. But you need to decide now. Are you going to keep being the mother who sacrifices herself in silence? Or are you going to be the woman who defends herself? I looked at my sister, the sister I had abandoned for a lie, the sister who, despite everything, stood beside me, offering her hand. I want to be Amelia again, I said, my voice clear and unwavering. I want to be me. Cecilia smiled. For the first time in 15 years, that familiar childhood smile, full of knowing mischief and unwavering loyalty, shone through. Then let's get started. We spent the rest of the afternoon planning. Cecilia's pen flew across her notebook. She made calls, reviewed documents, patiently explaining legal terms as I nodded, still half believing this dream of defiance. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Cecilia closed her briefcase with a decisive snap. We start tomorrow. The hammer blow of certainty echoed in Cecilia's voice. When you do this, Amelia, there's no going back. Ryan will react badly. Valerie will react worse. It's going to be ugly. You have to be ready. My heart hammered against my ribs, a trapped bird desperate to escape, but the words that left my lips were steady. I'm ready. A flicker of approval crossed Cecilia's face. Good. Now what's for dinner? I'm starving. For the first time in years, the kitchen, a place long silenced by absence, buzzed with life. My sister and I moved in practiced synchronicity, chopping onions, the rhythmic thud of the knife a counterpoint to our hushed conversation. In that simple act, a new sensation bloomed in my chest. Not anger, not sadness, but a nascent strength. I wasn't alone. And sometimes one person truly on your side is all you need to face down a world that has grown too large. The next morning, I woke before the sun. A lightness I hadn't known in decades settling over me. Cecilia arrived at 8 a.m. sharp, bringing an entourage of one, a short, sturdy man in a blue work shirt, his hands calloused and quiet. "Amelia, this is Tony," she announced, her voice brisk. "He's the best locksmith in the city." Tony tipped his cap, a glint of metal catching the early light. "Ma'am, Cecilia tells me you need a security upgrade." "We're changing every lock," Cecilia clarified, a directive in her tone. "Front door, back door, windows, everything. When he's done, you'll be the only person with keys to this house." My gaze drifted to the front door, the same unforgiving slab of wood Ryan and Valerie had walked through just 3 days ago, closing it without a backward glance. "Do it," I heard myself say, the word a steel-sharp command. While Tony's tools began their methodical work, a low, metallic hum echoing through the house, Cecilia spread papers across my pine dining table. The wood, recently scrubbed clean, reflected the morning light. "First things first," she declared, pushing a deed closer to me. "This property has been in your name since 1990, 35 years. No other name on this title. Not Ryan's, not Valerie's, not anyone's. It is completely yours." My voice, still laced with that familiar weary doubt, surfaced. "But they live here." Cecilia's gaze was unflinching. "They live here because you allowed it. That's a verbal agreement. But with no contract, they have no possession rights. Legally, they are guests, and guests leave when the owner decides." She slid another document across the table. "This is a friendly eviction notice. It's not a lawsuit. It's not going to court. It's a paper where you, as the owner, inform them they need to vacate the property within 30 days. 30 days. The legal minimum to avoid appearing arbitrary. Her eyes, serious and knowing, met mine. "But Amelia, you don't have to give it to them if you don't want to. This is just for legal backup. My recommendation is that when they return, you talk to them. Explain that this is your house and you need your space back. If they react badly, then we use this." I nodded, a knot forming in my stomach at the thought of that conversation. "Now, second," Cecilia produced the folder of incendiary emails. "This is evidence of conspiracy to commit property fraud. With these messages, we could file a criminal complaint. Ryan would have a record. He could even go to jail." "No," I said instantly, the word catching in my throat. "I don't want that." Cecilia understood. "I know, but you need to have this stored in a safe place, because if they react violently, if they try to do something against you, this is your protection. Understand?" "I understand." Tony reappeared, wiping his hands on a rag, the front door now gleaming with new hardware. "All set, ma'am. Give it a try." He offered me 3 keys, dull metal in my palm, surprisingly heavy, achingly real. I locked the door, then unlocked it. The deadbolt engaged with a satisfying thunk, different, firmer, as if the house itself had found its voice, asserting, "Now you're protected." Returning to the table, Cecilia pivoted to finance. "Now we need to talk about money. How much do you have saved?" $143,000 in the bank. The number hung in the air. "Does Ryan have access to that account?" I froze. I don't know. Years ago, I gave him an additional card for emergencies." Cecilia was already dialing. A terse conversation ensued. "We're going to the bank now." Less than an hour later, Fernanda, a young bank officer, looked up my account. "Mrs. Cortez, I see there's an additional card here for Orion Cortez." My breath hitched. "He has the same access as you." The air left my lungs in a silent whoosh. Can I cancel it?" Fernanda's reply was a lifeline. "Of course, it's your account. I can do it right now." "Please do it." The soft click of keys on a keyboard. "Done. The card has been cancelled. I also recommend you change your PIN and activate text alerts for any movement, Cecilia interjected. There's one more thing. We need to open a new account in my sister's name, only at a different bank. 2 hours later, $143,000, now bearing only my name, resided securely in a new institution, accessible by a card only I possessed. Now he can't touch you, Cecilia said as we stepped back into the sun. Your money is safe. But a phantom ache persisted. I felt a confusing guilt, a sense of betraying my own son. Cecilia must have seen it in my face. She stopped mid-street, her hands firm on my shoulders. Amelia, listen to me. Protecting what is yours is not betrayal. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. What we are doing is justice. It's taking back what they never should have taken from you. Back at the house, Tony was gone. My fortress was complete, the 6 new keys a tangible symbol of its impregnability. And now? I asked, standing in the silent living room. Now you reclaim your space, Cecilia said, her eyes sweeping the room, already envisioning its transformation. We spent the rest of the day in a flurry of activity. The rocking chair banished to the hallway returned to its rightful place. Valerie's impersonal grey sofa was exiled to the junk room. My pine table, resplendent after a thorough cleaning, shone in the dining room. Upstairs, in the master bedroom, Cecilia paused. Do you want your room back? I surveyed the king-size bed, the closet crammed with Valerie's clothes. For the first time, the raw truth finally escaped. I want them gone. We started packing, not with anger, not with revenge, but with a quiet, unwavering firmness. Piece by folded piece, sheet by sheet, their belongings were carefully placed into boxes. Their shoes, their perfumes, the intimate details of lives that had dominated mine. By Wednesday night, the bedroom was mine again. My favourite blue sheets adorned the bed. The familiar scent of lavender filled the air, and photos of David, my late husband, smiled from the nightstand. I sat on the bed, the mattress sinking beneath me, and cried. Not tears of sadness, but of profound, cleansing relief. Thursday morning, Cecilia unveiled her next strategic move. One more thing, security. A technician arrived installing 3 cameras, one at the front door, one in the backyard, one in the living room. They connect to your phone. You'll be able to see everything in real time. Isn't this overkill? I ventured. Cecilia's answer was sharp. Not when there's $340,000 at stake in a documented fraud attempt. Amelia, you need to protect yourself. On Friday, Cecilia shared one final crucial idea. Do you remember the shop, your customers? Of course. Do you still have their contacts? Some of them. Why? Because when Ryan and Valerie come back, they are going to try to discredit you. They're going to say you're crazy, senile, manipulated. You need people who will speak for you, people who really know you. That afternoon, I started calling. Mrs. Lucy, Mr. Arthur, Mrs. Sylvia, the teacher. One by one, I laid bare the truth, and one by one, their responses solidified my resolve. Count on me, Amelia. Saturday, 6 days since they left. The house was unrecognizable, transformed. It was indisputably mine. Cecilia, arms crossed, watched me. How do you feel? Scared, I admitted, the word a small, ragged breath. They come back tomorrow. I know, she said, her voice soft but firm. But look at what you accomplished in 6 days. You got your house back. You protected your money. You changed the locks. You installed cameras. You gathered support. Amelia, you built your freedom. She was right. Still, my heart hammered like a drum at the thought of Ryan walking through that door. What if I regret it? I whispered. What if when I see him I can't do it? Cecilia embraced me. Then you'll have me, and you'll remember why you started this, not for revenge, for dignity. That night, sleep was a distant shore. I sat in my rocking chair, staring at the front door, a sentinel in the quiet house. Tomorrow, when they tried their old key, they would find a new lock. And on the other side, a new woman. Because freedom isn't given. It's built brick by brick, decision by decision. And sometimes, a few short days are all it takes to change an entire life. Sunday dawned with a clear, mocking sky that belied the storm brewing in my chest. Cecilia arrived early, grocery bags rustling. "We're going to cook," she declared. "You need to stay busy, or you'll go crazy thinking." She was right. My hands trembled as I peeled potatoes, every passing car a jolt to my system. "What time did they say they'd be back?" Cecilia asked. "Ryan texted last night." "We'll be back around 5, Mom. We'll grab dinner on the way." I glanced at the clock. 10:05 a.m., 7 hours. The doorbell chimed and I nearly dropped the knife. "Relax," Cecilia murmured. "It must be her." Her? Cecilia offered a mysterious smile and opened the door. She returned with a young woman, maybe 23, hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, her clear eyes shyly meeting mine. "Amelia, this is Paige," Cecilia introduced. "Paige, this is my sister." The girl extended her hand. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Cortez." "Paige," I repeated, utterly confused. Cecilia poured coffee for us and we settled at the table. "Let me explain," my sister began. "Paige is a nursing student at the university. She just arrived from Ohio for her clinicals at General Hospital. She needs a place to live that's safe, clean, and close to the hospital. And one that doesn't cost an arm and a leg because she's just scraping by on her scholarship." I looked at the girl. She had a kind face, the kind that held a quiet resilience. I don't understand what this has to do with me," I said. "You have 3 bedrooms in this house," Cecilia continued, her gaze unwavering. "One is yours, the other was Ryan and Valerie's, and the third, the old kids' room, is also empty. What if you rented out a room?" My jaw dropped. "Rent, Cecilia. Hear me out. First, it would give you a steady monthly income. Paige can pay $450 a month. That's the going rate for a room in this area. Second, you'd have company. You wouldn't be alone in this big house." Cecilia's words hung in the air, a silken cord drawing me in. "And third," I prompted, a flicker of something akin to hope stirring in my chest. She leaned forward, her voice dropping. "When Ryan and Valerie show up today and see someone else living here, they will understand immediately that things have changed, that this is no longer their house." A soft voice broke the tension. "Mrs. Cortez, I don't want to cause any trouble, but I promise I'm very tidy, very respectful." Paige, her presence almost luminous, spoke for the first time. "I study a lot, so I barely make any noise, and well, my mom had a stationery shop in Ohio, Lupita. It was called Lupita's. You met her many years ago when you went to a conference there." I looked up, stunned. "Lupita Mendoza? Your mom is Lupita?" Paige's eyes welled with tears that mirrored my own sudden grief. "She was. She passed away 2 years ago. Cancer. But she always talked about you. She said you gave her advice that saved her business when she was just starting out, that you were so generous to her." The past hit me like a physical blow. Lupita, a young, scared woman, seeking me out at that stationery conference in 2005. I'd given her everything, suppliers, contacts, my own hard-won tricks, asking for nothing in return. "Your mother was a brave woman," I managed, my voice a raw whisper. "Just like you," Paige replied, her gaze steady. "That's why when Miss Cecilia told me your story, I knew I wanted to help, even if it's just with my presence, with my rent, with whatever I can." I glanced at Cecilia, then back at Paige, and for the first time in days, a genuine smile touched my lips. "When can you move in?" A profound sigh of relief escaped Paige. "My things are in the car. It's just 2 suitcases. Then, welcome home." The next few hours blurred into a whirlwind of quiet activity. Paige brought in her meager belongings. We prepared the room that had once held my grandchildren's fleeting presence, cleaning it together, making the bed with fresh linens. We arranged her desk by the window, positioning it just so, to catch the afternoon light perfect for studying. "It's perfect," she breathed, her eyes shining as she surveyed the small, clean space. Thank you so much, Mrs. Cortez. Call me Amelia. At 4 p.m., the three of us gravitated to the living room. Cecilia, cool and collected, reviewed documents on her laptop. Paige, immersed in her own world, studied anatomy. And I? I watched the clock, each second a hammer blow against my chest. 4:47 p.m., my phone vibrated. A text from Ryan. Almost there. 15 minutes. They're coming, I said, my voice thin, unsteady. Cecilia snapped her laptop shut. Ready? No, nobody is ever ready for this, I admitted, but you're going to do it anyway. Paige glanced between us, her expression tentative. Do you want me to go to my room? No, I declared, my voice finding a sudden, unexpected strength. I want you here. I want them to see I'm not alone anymore. 5:02 p.m. The distant drone of an engine, then the distinct slam of car doors, kids' excited voices, the crunch of footsteps on the flagstone walk, and then the unmistakable grating sound of a key trying to force its way into a lock that no longer claimed it. Silence. Then, the sound again, followed by Valerie's annoyed shout, "What the hell, Ryan? Your key isn't working, let me try mine." The doorbell shrieked, loud and insistent. Cecilia's hand closed over mine. Breathe. You are the owner of this house. Remember that. I pushed myself up. Every step toward the door felt like walking off a cliff's edge. I turned the knob, pulled the door open. There they stood. Ryan, arrogant in his beach polo and sunglasses. Valerie, impeccable in a white sundress, hair pulled back, the hotel's wristband a vivid splash against her tanned wrist. The kids, their backpacks slung over their shoulders. But their eyes, even the children's, didn't meet mine. They peered past me. Ryan squinted. Mom, who... I stepped aside. Cecilia sat in my rocking chair, a coffee cup steaming in her hands, a polite, almost serene smile on her face. Paige on the sofa was surrounded by her laptop and nursing textbooks. Hello, Ryan, Cecilia said, her voice a calm ripple in the charged air. It's been a long time. Ryan's face went ashen. Valerie, conversely, flushed a furious crimson. What is she doing here? Valerie spat, pointing at Cecilia as if she were a venomous insect. Amelia, what is going on? Mason and Luna, oblivious, rushed past them, launching themselves at me. Grandma! Mason's small arms clung to me. Luna wrapped herself around my neck, her breath warm. Hello, my loves, I murmured, kissing their heads. I missed you so much. Why don't the keys work? Ryan demanded, still rigid in the doorway. Because I changed the locks, I answered, a voice I barely recognized as my own, firm, clear, utterly unapologetic. The silence that followed was so thick you could have carved it with a knife. Valerie was the first to shatter it. What do you mean you changed the locks? This is our house. No, I stated. That single word, no, emerged with a strength I hadn't known I possessed. This is my house. Ryan finally moved, pushing past me, his eyes scanning the living room as if it were an alien landscape. He was right not to recognize it. The grey sofa was gone, their clutter erased. The house now smelled of lavender and fresh coffee, not his cloying cologne or Valerie's overpowering perfume. Mom, what did you do? His voice teetered between confusion and rage. Where are our things? Packed in boxes in the bedroom you were using. What? Valerie shrieked, bolting up the stairs. We heard slamming doors, muffled yells. She stomped back down, incandescent. Who do you think you are? Those are my things, my clothes, my shoes. And they are all intact, packed respectfully, ready for you to take them. Take them? Take them where? Ryan stared at me as if I'd lost my mind. Mum, we live here. What are you talking about? Cecilia rose, a folder in her hand, and stepped toward us. Ryan, I think I should be the one to explain, my sister said, her voice coolly professional. This house is deeded to your mother solely in her name. You have been living here under a verbal agreement. No contract, no rent, no contribution to expenses. Legally, you are guests, and your mother has decided she needs her space back. Ryan pointed a trembling finger at Cecilia. You manipulated her. You've always wanted to split us up. Nobody manipulated anyone, I cut in, my gaze locking with his. Ryan, open your eyes. For 2 years, you two have treated me like I was your employee, like this house was yours, like I didn't matter. We gave you a roof. We took care of you, Valerie shrieked, red-faced. A bitter laugh bubbled up from my throat, surprising even me. You gave me a roof, Valerie. This is my roof, and the only thing you two have done is take everything from me under it. Paige, sensing the escalating tension, began nervously gathering her things. Excuse me, I think it's better if I— No, I said, my hand raising. Paige, stay. They need to know I'm not alone anymore. Ryan looked at her, his eyes narrowed. And who are you? I'm Paige. I'm renting a room here. Valerie let out a hysterical cackle. Renting? Did my mother-in-law open a hotel now? Your mother-in-law took her house back, Cecilia corrected, her voice ice. And she has every right to do whatever she wants with it. This isn't over, Ryan threatened, his eyes blazing. Mom, you are going to regret this. I walked up to my son, met his gaze without flinching. Those eyes, I'd known them since his birth, watched them grow, shine, and dream. Ryan, I found the emails. He froze. The messages between you and Valerie, the ones where you laugh at me, where you plan to use my house as collateral for your debts, where you call me naive. His face crumpled, a mask of shock and shame. Mom, You have until tomorrow at 6 p.m. to get your things. If you need more time, we can talk, but you are not living here anymore, not like this. Valerie's mouth opened, poised for another venomous retort, but Ryan grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the door. Let's go. What do you mean, let's go? She hissed. We have nowhere to go. We'll find somewhere. Let's go. The kids, their faces streaked with tears, looked at me. Grandma, don't you love us anymore? I knelt, wrapping my arms around them. I love you with my whole heart. None of this is because of you, and I will keep seeing you. I promise. Mason clung to me, sobbing silently. Luna wept into my shoulder. Valerie ripped them away. Let's go, kids. Your grandmother has lost her mind. I watched them leave, watched them get in the car, watched them drive away until the car disappeared around the corner. When the door clicked shut, when silence descended once more, I collapsed. Cecilia held me as my body shook with sobs I'd held back for years. Paige, already a quiet anchor, brought me a glass of water. They both sat with me, silent, unwavering. You did it, Cecilia whispered, stroking my hair. Amelia, you did it. And even though every inch of my body ached, even though my heart felt shattered into 1,000 pieces, something else stirred within me, something I hadn't felt in a very long time. I felt free. Closing a door hurts, but sometimes it's the only way to open a window. That night, sleep was a stranger. I sat in my rocking chair, staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak and sigh of the house, as if inhabiting it for the very first time. Cecilia had stayed, refusing the guest room for the sofa. You need to know you're not alone, she'd insisted. At 2 a.m., my phone vibrated. A message from Ryan. Mom, how could you do this to us? We're in a hotel with the kids, paying $180 a night that we don't have, all because of your selfishness. My hands trembled. I wanted to reply, to apologize, to tell him to come back. But then, the memory of the emails, the laughter, the word naive with that mocking emoji, burned in my mind. I deleted the message. No reply. 3 minutes later, another from Valerie. I hope you're happy, Amelia. You took the roof from your own grandchildren. What kind of grandmother does that? You are selfish and a terrible person. Ryan is devastated because of you. I closed my eyes, took a deep, shuddering breath. I didn't answer, but the messages kept coming, one after another, like waves of poison. Everyone in the family is going to know who you really are. You're going to end up alone, completely alone, and you'll deserve it. The kids are crying, asking why their grandma doesn't love them. That last message broke me. A stifled cry caught in my throat. I clamped a hand over my mouth to keep from waking Cecilia, but she was already awake. She sat beside me, gently taking the phone from my trembling grasp. "Enough," she said firmly. "This is emotional manipulation, and you are not falling for their game." "But the kids, Cecilia, the kids will be fine. They have parents who need to solve this. You've already done what you had to do." That night, I blocked their numbers. For the first time in my life, I set digital boundaries. Monday dawned grey, drizzling. The shared pastry turned to ash in my mouth. "How are you feeling?" Paige's voice was soft, a stark contrast to the raw wound inside me. "Like something was ripped out," I admitted, the words catching in my throat, "but also lighter." Her reply echoed a forgotten wisdom. "My mom used to say that sometimes you have to rip out the rot so the healthy part can grow." I offered a sad, knowing smile. "Your mom was very wise." Precisely at 11, the doorbell chimes. It wasn't Ryan. Instead, my cousin Beatrice filled the doorway, her face a mask of exaggerated concern, a cloud of cheap perfume preceding her. "Amelia, what is going on?" She swept in without waiting, her eyes scanning the living room as if searching for evidence. "Ryan called me crying. He said you kicked him out, that you've gone crazy, that Cecilia is manipulating you." There it was, the first cut. The smear campaign had begun. "Ryan told you his version," I calmly countered, holding her gaze. "Do you want to hear mine?" Beatrice crossed her arms, a challenge in her stance. "Fine." I laid it all out. The emails, the years of quiet humiliation, the money loaned and never returned, the audacious plan to use my house as collateral. By the time I finished, her face was pale, the perfume suddenly cloying. I had no idea," she mumbled, almost to herself. "Nobody did, because I stayed quiet, but not anymore." She left with few words, but the flicker of doubt in her eyes was a small victory. It was just the beginning. Tuesday brought Julio, my friend from the book club. Wednesday, 2 concerned neighbours, their faces etched with the same narrative of a son scorned, a mother senile, manipulated, unhinged. To each, I presented the deed, the emails, explaining everything with a voice that held steady, firm. Some believed me instantly. Others left with a seed of doubt visibly planted, a ripple in their convictions. Thursday, at precisely 6 p.m., Ryan arrived. The roaring engine of a moving truck announcing his presence before I even opened the door. He looked terrible, eyes swollen, face unshaven, clothes wrinkled as if he'd slept in them. "Mom," he choked out, his voice already breaking. "Are you really going to do this?" "It's already done," I said, the words a wall between us. 2 movers shuffled in behind him, their cardboard boxes a stark reminder of the finality. I retreated to the living room, a silent witness as they dismantled the life we'd built, carting away furniture bought with my money, clothes, the children's toys. Valerie arrived an hour later, a whirlwind of fury. She didn't even glance my way, stomping upstairs, a cacophony of slamming drawers and falling objects marking her descent into chaos. Cecilia's arrival was perfectly timed. She stood by my side, a silent, unwavering shield. When Valerie finally reappeared, a box clutched to her chest, she fixed me with a venomous stare. "You're a snake," she spat, her voice laced with pure spite. "A bitter old snake who can't stand to see her son happy." I took a slow, deep breath, refusing to rise to the bait. "If that makes you feel better, you can think that. It's not what I think, it's what you are." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper of pure malice. "And when you're all alone, rotting in this house with no one to take care of you, you're going to regret this. Because we were your family, and you lost us all for your pride." "No," I stated, my voice steady, cutting through her tirade. "I lost you because you never saw me as family, only as a resource. Valerie reeled back, ready to lash out, but Ryan grabbed her arm, his grip tight. That's enough, Valerie. Let's go. As the last box was loaded, Ryan approached, his face a contorted mask of regret. Mum? I know I made mistakes. His voice cracked again, searching for a chink in my armor. But you're my mother. Is there really no way to fix this? For a fleeting moment, I saw the little boy, the son I had raised, whose tears I'd dried in the dark. But he was no longer that boy. He was a man who had used me, lied to me, and planned to strip me bare. There is a way, I said, my voice unwavering. It's called consequences, and it's time for you to face them. His eyes hardened, all remnants of the child vanishing. Then this is goodbye. No, I countered. It's a see you later. When you're ready to talk, truly talk without Valerie feeding you lies, without manipulation games, I'll be here. He shook his head, a dismissive gesture. You're a stranger. No, Ryan. You turned your mother into a stranger. I just stopped allowing it. He turned and left without a backward glance. The truck rumbled to life, its tail lights disappearing into the twilight. Cecilia closed the door, and the silence that enveloped the house was different. It wasn't the hollow echo of loneliness. It was peace. The storm, however, was far from over. Friday morning, my phone erupted. Messages flooded in from relatives who rarely called, now overflowing with judgment. Amelia, how could you kick out your own son? Family is first. This is unforgivable. Ryan says you're sick. Do you need medical help? Some even implied dementia, or that Cecilia had brainwashed me to seize my house. It was exhausting, hurtful, yet also revealing. Where were these opinionated voices when I was working 12-hour days at the shop? When I was widowed at 28? When Ryan was repeatedly siphoning money? None of them. But now they all had opinions. Block them, Cecilia advised, her voice firm. All of them. You don't owe them any explanations. But they're family, I protested. Family isn't who shares your blood, Amelia. It's who respects your dignity. She was right. That night I blocked 17 numbers, and for the first time in weeks, my phone was finally silent. Saturday, exactly 1 week after Ryan's departure, Paige burst into the kitchen, laptop in hand. Mrs. Amelia, you need to see this. She thrust the screen in front of me, Valerie's public Facebook post. There are people in this world who forget what family means, who prefer money and selfishness over their own grandchildren. We are going through a very difficult time thanks to a person who decided to put herself first. But God sees everything, and life has a way of collecting. Attached was a photo of the children, their faces manufactured sadness. 127 comments glowed beneath it, most supporting Valerie, some asking, others cursing the evil grandmother. I felt the air leave my lungs. Don't read the comments, Paige urged, but it was too late. So sad that there are grandmothers like that, those poor little angels. God protect them from heartless people. Old age is cruel. Sometimes elderly people lose their minds. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands trembling. Am I going to lose everyone for doing the right thing? Paige took my hands in hers, her touch firm. Mrs. Amelia, my mum always said, the truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs time. Give them time. The people who really know you will know who you are. That night, an unexpected message appeared. From Mason, my grandson, sent from Ryan's phone. Grandma, I miss you. Did I do something wrong? Is that why you don't love us anymore? I wept. A torrent of tears I hadn't allowed myself in days. I replied instantly, my beautiful boy, you did nothing wrong. I love you with my whole heart, and I will always be your grandma. Nothing will ever change that. Things between adults are complicated, but my love for you will never be complicated. It will always be simple and pure and forever. I love you, Mason. There was no reply back. Ryan had likely seen it and blocked the contact, but the message had landed. And that was enough. 1 week. 7 days of attacks, lies, and manipulation. But I was still standing, and my house, my real house, was still mine. Because when you decide to take your life back, not everyone will understand, some will attack, others will judge. But the ones who matter, the ones who truly love you, they will stay. And finding out who those people are is the most painful, most necessary gift life can give. 2 weeks after Ryan left, the storm hadn't subsided. But it had shape-shifted. It was no longer the screaming and slamming doors. Now it was quieter, more insidious. It was the silence of phones that didn't ring, the averted gazes of neighbours at the grocery store, the WhatsApp messages left on read by cousins who once sent jokes. On Wednesday, at the market, Mrs. Carmen, the vegetable vendor who had known me for 20 years, barely acknowledged me. "Good morning, Mrs. Carmen." "Morning," she replied curtly, her eyes fixed on the display of tomatoes. I bought my usual tomatoes, onions, peppers. As I paid, I caught her low, conspiratorial whisper to the woman next to her. "That's the one who kicked out her son and grandkids. They say she's gone crazy." A wave of frigid shock washed over me. I paid in silence, leaving the market in a daze. By the time I reached home, tears were already tracing paths down my cheeks. Paige, studying in the living room, closed her book the moment she saw me. "What happened?" I told her everything. She shook her head. "People talk without knowing." "But they are talking." "And what if they're right, Paige? What if I'm the one who's wrong?" Her gaze was steady. "Did you take back what was yours?" "Yes." "Did you set fair boundaries?" "Yes." "Did you hurt anyone without reason?" "No." "Then you are not wrong. You are being slandered, which is different." But despite the truth in her words, the ache remained. Thursday, the phone rang, an unfamiliar number that I instinctively knew. It was my old friend Estelle's house phone. I hadn't seen her since Christmas, but we'd been friends for 3 decades. "Hello, Amelia. It's me." Her voice was distant, colder than I'd ever heard it. "Estelle, how wonderful to hear from you. I'm not calling to catch up. I'm calling because Ryan came to my house yesterday, crying, telling me everything you did to him." My stomach twisted. "Estelle, if you just let me explain." "I don't need you to explain anything. I've known that boy since he was a baby. I know what kind of son he is. And frankly, Amelia, I'm disappointed in you. A mother doesn't do what you did. A mother also doesn't deserve—" "Don't interrupt me. I called to tell you not to count on me for anything. I don't want anything to do with someone capable of doing that to her own blood." She hung up. I stood there, the phone trembling in my hand. Cecilia found me that evening silent in my rocking chair, staring at the wall. "What happened?" I recounted Estelle's call, Mrs. Carmen's disdain, all the small, insidious stabs that felt worse than a direct blow. Cecilia sighed, a sound heavy with knowing. "Ryan and Valerie are doing exactly what I expected. A systematic smear campaign. They're going person by person, crying, playing the victim." "And what do I do?" I looked at her, confused, desperate. "Nothing. The truth doesn't need an active defense, Amelia. It just needs time. Eventually people will see who Ryan really is, but you have to be patient." "I don't know if I can be." That night, dinner lay untouched. The phone vibrated at 11:30 p.m., an unknown number breaking the pre-dawn hush of my bedroom. Sleep had long abandoned me. I hesitated, a knot tightening in my stomach, then answered. "Hello?" Silence, a cold, echoing void. Then Valerie's voice sharp as a winter wind. "I hope you're happy, Amelia. You destroyed this family." My breath caught. "Valerie, how did you get this number?" "It doesn't matter how. What matters is that you know the children are not well. Mason doesn't want to eat. Luna cries every night asking for you. Is that what you wanted?" Each word a poisoned dart. "Valerie, I never wanted—" "Yes, you did. You wanted to punish us for not obeying you like your little lapdog. Well, congratulations, you did it. But when those kids grow up and hate you, remember this moment." A desperate plea escaped me. "Let me talk to them." "No, you don't have the right anymore." You earned that. The line went dead. I sat in the darkness, the cold phone still pressed to my ear, my hand trembling. Had I done the right thing, or was I truly a destroyer? The question echoed in the void Valerie had left. Days crawled by, each one heavier than the last, until Friday dawned with a new, insidious twist. I was stirring sugar into my morning coffee when my phone chimed. The family WhatsApp group, the one for birthdays and reunions, connecting cousins, aunts, uncles, had a new message. Ryan. Family, it began, a polite veneer over something sinister. It is with great sadness that I have to inform that my mother is going through mental health problems. We have tried to help her, but she refuses. She is now living with strangers in the house, he wrote, referring to Cecilia and an unnamed tenant. If anyone can talk to her and make her see reason, I would be grateful. The children need her. Then, an attachment. A photograph. My blood ran cold. It was me, captured through my own living room window. Pajamas, messy hair, a face etched with exhaustion. He had spied on me. He had come to my house under the cloak of night and photographed me without consent. Disgust warred with a primal terror. The replies flooded in, a digital chorus of concern and condemnation. Oh, poor Amelia. Old age is cruel. Can't we do something legal? Take her to a doctor. Ryan, count on us. That's not your mum. It's the illness. I couldn't breathe. My fingers fumbled for Cecilia's number. When she answered, the only words I could force out were, "They're destroying me." 20 minutes later, Cecilia stood in my living room, her presence a balm against the rising panic. I showed her the group, the venomous messages, the invasive photo, her face, usually so warm, hardened into a mask I'd never witnessed. This has crossed the line. This is defamation, invasion of privacy, harassment. What do I do? My voice was barely a whisper. First, you leave that group. You do not participate in their circus. Her eyes were flint. Second, we document everything, screenshots, dates, times. She paused, her gaze steady. And third, we need evidence of your mental lucidity. How? You're going to see a doctor, a psychiatrist. Ideally, he's going to give you a full evaluation, and when you walk out of there with a certificate saying you are perfectly sane, Ryan will have nowhere left to hide. The following Monday, I sat across from Dr. Patricia Hernandez, a psychiatrist whose 30 years of experience seemed to weigh in the quiet hum of her office. She unspooled a thread of questions, weaving through the fabric of my life, my family, my recent painful decisions. She challenged me with logic problems, memory sequences, and probing inquiries into my emotions. 3 hours later, I emerged with an official document, every word a shield against their slander. The patient, Amelia Cortez, 67 years of age, presents with full mental faculties, intact memory, adequate logical reasoning, and complete capacity for making decisions regarding her assets and her life. No evidence of cognitive decline, dementia, or psychiatric alterations that would compromise her judgment was found. She is in full possession of her mental and legal faculties, signed, sealed, and numbered. When I showed it to Cecilia, a slow, triumphant smile spread across her face. This is gold, Amelia. Pure gold. That night, from my phone, but with Cecilia's fierce strategizing, a message appeared in the family group. Good morning, family. This is Amelia. I have read the recent messages with sadness. It hurts me to be spoken of as if I am incapacitated when the reality is very different. I am attaching a recent psychiatric evaluation which confirms I am in full possession of my faculties. The decisions I have made regarding my property are my own, conscious, and fair. I respect everyone's right to an opinion, but I will not allow myself to be defamed. I wish you all the best. I watched, holding my breath, as the PDF of the medical certificate uploaded. The silence that followed was deafening, a digital vacuum. No one replied. But then, one by one, 3 names vanished from the member list. Ryan's was among them. On Wednesday, the world tilted on its axis again. I was watering my parched rose bushes when a car, unfamiliar and silent, parked out front. 2 small figures tumbled out, Mason and Luna, alone. My heart hammered against my ribs as I raced towards them. "Kids, what are you doing here? Where are your parents?" Mason, at 12, seemed older, his face etched with a seriousness that belied his years. "We ran away, Grandma." "What? How?" "Dad and Mom went to run an errand. They left Luna with the neighbour and me alone at home because I'm old enough. I went and got Luna, and we took an Uber. I had $34 saved for my birthday." Luna, a small trembling anchor, hugged my legs, her sobs muffled against my trousers. "Grandma, I miss you. Why don't you visit us anymore?" I knelt, tears blurring my vision, pulling them both into a tight embrace. "My loves, I have missed you every second of every day." "Mommy says you hate us," Luna whispered, her voice raw. "She says we're not your family anymore." "That is a lie. A very big lie. You are and always will be my family." Mason looked at me, his eyes carrying years he hadn't lived. "Grandma, I heard the fights." "I heard Mom telling Dad how they were going to get money from you, that you were dumb." He paused, a flicker of understanding in his gaze. I didn't understand before, but I do now. I froze, Mason's words hanging in the air. "And I also heard when Mom told Dad that if you kept saying no, they were going to tell everyone you were crazy, that it was the only way to get you put in a home so they could keep the house." The world spun. "Are you sure? Are you sure you heard that?" "Yes, it was about a week ago. I was in my room, but the door was open." Cecilia emerged from the kitchen where she'd been listening, her steps light but deliberate. "Mason," she said, her voice soft but firm as tempered steel. "Could you repeat what you just said, but this time recorded, so your grandma can be protected?" The boy nodded, a brave, solemn gesture. And there, in the quiet dignity of my living room, with Cecilia's phone laid bare, my 12-year-old grandson recounted every damning word. When he finished, Cecilia clicked off the recorder. This changes everything," she looked at me. "Call Ryan." I did. He answered on the 3rd ring. "The children are with me," I stated, cutting him off before he could speak. "They are fine. Come and get them." I hung up. 30 minutes later, Ryan and Valerie arrived, their fury palpable, pounding on my door as if to shatter it. I opened it, Cecilia a silent sentinel beside me. "How dare you keep them here without our permission?" Valerie shrieked, her face a mask of rage. "They came here on their own," I replied, my voice steady, powered by an unfamiliar resolve. "Because you manipulated them," Ryan's voice boomed. "No," Mason interrupted, stepping out from behind me, his small frame radiating a courage I hadn't known he possessed. "Because we wanted to see our grandma. Because you lied to us." Ryan's face went ashen. "Mason, be quiet. You don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, I do. I know everything." The boy stood tall, facing his father, and with a bravery that fractured my heart, he declared, "I know you wanted to take Grandma's house, that you said she was crazy when she's not. And that's wrong, Dad. It's really wrong." The ensuing silence was so heavy it pressed on us all, aching with unspoken truths. Valerie grabbed both children by their arms, her grip tight. "We're leaving now." But as they turned, Ryan's gaze met mine. For the first time in weeks, the anger that usually burned in his eyes was replaced by something else. A flicker of shame. When they were gone, I collapsed onto the sofa. "You see," Cecilia said, sitting beside me, a hand on my arm, "the truth always finds a way out. Always." And she was right, because what Ryan and Valerie didn't know was that the truth no longer just lived in my heart. Now it had a voice. It had witnesses. It had proof. And that truth, sooner or later, was going to collect its price. Because you can lie to the whole world, but you can never truly lie to a child who was listening when you thought no one was. The days following the children's visit were suspended in an odd, silent calm, as if the universe itself had hit a pause button. Ryan didn't call. Valerie ceased her poisonous messages. The family group chat remained a graveyard of unread posts. Yet, I knew it was merely the calm before the final, inevitable storm. Cecilia spent more time at my house, her laptop open on the dining table, filling the quiet with the rhythmic tap of her keys. Paige was absorbed in her final exams, a separate world of scholastic pressure. And I was trying to reconstruct a routine that felt shattered beyond repair, like trying to pick up shards of glass. On Tuesday morning, as the scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the kitchen, Cecilia entered, a thick folder cradled in her arms. "Amelia, I need you to see this." I sat down, my apprehension a cold weight in my chest. She spread documents across the table like a detective revealing a complex web of deceit. I investigated everything I could about Ryan and Valerie's business, the one that was supposedly going to make them rich. A cynical smile touched her lips. "It doesn't exist." Well, it did. It was a multi-level marketing company, one of those that promises you'll make millions selling miracle products. A classic pyramid scheme. A pit opened in my stomach. They put in $480,000 in total. Yours. My loan they never paid back. Credit cards. Everything. "And what happened to the money?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "It vanished. The company went bankrupt 8 months ago. The owners fled to Panama with everything. Ryan and Valerie lost every single penny." I covered my mouth, a gasp escaping. "But there's more," Cecilia continued, her gaze unwavering. "I investigated their debts. They owe $340,000 on 3 different credit cards. Their credit is ruined. They can't even get a $500 loan." "That's why they wanted my house," I whispered, the revelation a cold, hard stone in my gut. Exactly. It was their only way out. To put it up as collateral for a huge loan, take the money, and who knows if you'd ever see the house again. I stared at the paper's numbers, collection agency stamps, legal notices. "How did you get all this?" "I have contacts. And also..." She hesitated, her eyes meeting mine, a new layer of grim reality settling between us. "Ryan tried to use your house as collateral 3 months ago. Without your signature, he forged a power of attorney." The world stopped. "What?" "The notary caught it. He demanded you show up in person. Ryan made up an excuse that you were sick, that you couldn't be moved. The notary refused to proceed without seeing you. That's why they tried to convince you to sign, to speed up the paperwork." "I was going to sign," I managed, the words hollow. "If I hadn't found those emails, I would have signed." Cecilia closed the folder with a decisive snap. "I know. That's why we're here now, Amelia. With this, we can do 2 things. 1, file a criminal complaint for attempted fraud. Ryan would go to jail, no doubt. 2, use this as leverage. If they try anything against you, legally or publicly, we show everyone everything and they sink themselves." My stomach churned. "I don't want him to go to jail." "I know," Cecilia said softly, her gaze unwavering. "But you need to be prepared for what's coming." "What's coming?" A chill ghosted across my skin. Cecilia sighed, a sound heavy with experience. Desperation. When people have no way out, they do terrible things. I didn't grasp the full weight of her words until Thursday. Paige, my sweet, usually composed neighbor, burst through the door, her face ghostly pale. "Mrs. Amelia, you need to see this." She thrust her phone into my hand. On the screen, Facebook glowed with comments from a neighborhood group. Someone had posted a lengthy text. It was Valerie. Her carefully crafted plea began, "Dear neighbors and friends, my family is going through a terrible time. My mother-in-law, who we loved and cared for years, has accused us of horrible, untrue things. She kicked us out of her house, which was our home too, leaving my children without a roof. All because of a manipulative sister who convinced her we are evil. We've lost everything. Our home, our dignity, our relationship with our children's grandmother. And now we don't even have enough to pay for the apartment we're in. If anyone can help us with anything, food, clothes for the kids, work, we would be infinitely grateful. God bless you." Below the text, photos flickered. My grandchildren, faces drawn and sad, clad in worn clothes, huddled in a small dark room. The post already boasted 89 comments and 134 shares. How horrible. Elderly people sometimes lose their empathy. I can donate some clothes. Send me a message. Those poor kids. They don't deserve this. Does anyone have this woman's contact info? We need to talk to her. The words tightened around my throat, suffocating me. When I showed Cecilia, her lips pressed into a thin line. They're running a public pity campaign. And worse, they're indirectly asking for money. This is emotional manipulation at its finest. What do I do? Do I respond? Do I clear my name? My voice was barely a whisper. "No," she said firmly, "because if you respond, you look desperate. If you clear your name, you look cruel. It's a trap. So nothing?" A fresh wave of despair washed over me. "No, something better." A rare smile touched Cecilia's lips, a glint of steel in her eyes. "The truth, but not from your mouth, from other voices." I didn't understand until I heard her making calls, her voice a low murmur from the next room. First, she called Mrs. Lucy, an old customer from my shop. Cecilia explained everything. Without my knowledge, Mrs. Lucy commented on Valerie's post. "I have known Amelia Cortez for 25 years. She is the most hard-working, honest, and generous woman I have ever met. If she made this decision, it was because she had very valid reasons. Don't be fooled by just one side of the story." Then came Mr. Arthur. "Amelia saved my business when no one else would help me. She is a woman of her word and her heart. Don't believe everything you read." Mrs. Sylvia, the teacher who bought school supplies from me for 15 years, added her voice. "I know this family and I know Amelia. There is much more to this story than what they are telling. Be careful before you judge." One after another, like silent defenders emerging from the shadows, my old customers, people I hadn't even known remembered me, began to rally. Not with attacks, not with aggression, but with simple, irrefutable testimonials of who I truly was. By Friday, the tide had turned. The comments on Valerie's post grew cautious, some openly questioning her narrative. "Sounds like there are two sides to this story. If so many people speak well of this lady, something doesn't add up. Why don't you show proof of what you're saying?" Valerie deleted the post that same night. 3 weeks after this nightmare began, on a quiet Saturday morning, my phone buzzed with an unexpected call. "Mrs. Cortez, this is Fernanda from the bank." "Yes. Hello." My grip tightened on the receiver. "I wanted to inform you that someone just tried to access your old account, the one we cancelled. They used old passwords and correctly answered the security questions." A prickle of ice ran down my spine. "Who?" "I can't give you that information over the phone, but the attempt was blocked. I just wanted you to know that someone has your sensitive information. Please change all your passwords." I hung up, my hands trembling. Ryan. He had tried to steal from me. Cecilia arrived half an hour later. As I recounted the call, her expression hardened like flint. "That's it. This has to end." "How?" "With the whole truth. Face to face." That night, Cecilia drafted a message. She sent it from my phone to Ryan's. "Ryan, we need to talk. The three of us. You, Valerie, and me. No kids. No third parties. Monday at 10 a.m. at my house. If you don't come, I will proceed legally with everything I have. The choice is yours." The reply came back in 5 minutes. "We'll be there." Sunday was a purgatory. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I paced the house, replaying every word I intended to say. Paige, sensing my torment, brought me chamomile tea. "It's going to be okay, Mrs. Amelia. The truth always wins." And what if it doesn't? Then it wasn't the truth. she said simply. Cecilia arrived early on Monday, carrying her familiar folder, a small recorder and a new presence. A notary. A notary, I whispered, a knot forming in my stomach. Just in case. If we reach any agreement, we document it immediately. No room for buyer's remorse. At 10:03 a.m. The doorbell shrieked, slicing through the tense silence. I took a deep, shaky breath. Cecilia squeezed my hand. Remember who you are and why we're here? I opened the door. Ryan looked wretched. His face was gaunt, deep circles etched beneath his eyes, his clothes wrinkled and stale. Valerie, by stark contrast, was meticulously dressed, makeup impeccable, her expression a mask of stony defiance. They walked in without a greeting. We sat in the living room, the space charged with unspoken accusations. The notary remained discreetly in the dining room, a silent witness. 30 seconds stretched into an eternity before Ryan broke the silence, his voice thin with resentment. Mum, is this why you wanted us to come? To humiliate us with your lawyer and your notary? No, I answered, my voice steady, surprising even myself. To end the lies. Cecilia placed the folder on the coffee table. Ryan, Valerie, we are going to put all the cards on the table, and at the end of this conversation, you will decide if we resolve this as a family or in court. And so, with the morning sun streaming through the windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, we began to unearth every lie, every deceit that had poisoned this family. It hurt, like pulling a thorn embedded deep in bone, but it was the only way to begin to heal. Because the truth isn't cruel. Lies are. The truth only hurts when you've been avoiding it for too long. Cecilia opened the folder slowly, each movement deliberate as if disarming a bomb. Let's start at the beginning, she said, her voice professional, devoid of emotion. Ryan, 15 years ago, you borrowed $120,000 from your aunt. You never paid her back. Ryan opened his mouth, but Cecilia held up a hand. Then your mother gave you $180,000 for a down payment on your apartment. You promised to pay it back. You didn't. Then $8,500 for the wedding. Another $8,500 for the business. Adding up everything your mother gave you in cash, loans, direct payments, it comes to $547,000 in 8 years. Valerie tried to interrupt. She gave us that they were never loans. I have text messages where you yourselves call it borrowed money. Cecilia cut her off, her gaze unyielding. But let's continue. The business, that multi-level marketing company you sank almost $500,000 into. It went bankrupt. You lost everything, correct? Ryan nodded, staring at the floor, a single bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. Now, Cecilia continued, her voice gaining momentum, you owe $340,000 on credit cards. You can't get a loan anywhere. And 3 months ago, you tried to put this house up as collateral for a loan without Amelia's signature, with a forged power of attorney. Ryan's face went white. I was going to ask her permission. Liar. Cecilia's voice cracked like a whip. The notary has a record. You said she was sick, that she couldn't come in. That is fraud, Ryan. That is jail time. We weren't going to do it, Valerie shrieked, leaping to her feet. You were just exploring options, I interjected, finding my voice, with forged documents and my fake signature. I looked directly at Valerie. You looked me in the eye for months, knowing you were planning to rob me, and you laughed about it. I pushed the printed emails across the table. Ryan's eyes darted over them, his face changing from confusion to dawning horror. Valerie, you wrote this, he said, his voice barely a whisper. It was a joke, she stammered, her composure shattering. A joke? My voice broke. Calling me senile is a joke. Planning to steal my house is a joke? We weren't going to steal it, Valerie cried, stepping forward. We just needed a big loan to get out of this mess, with my house as collateral without asking me. And if you couldn't pay, I would lose my home. The silence that followed was so thick it hurt to breathe. Cecilia continued, relentless. Then comes the smear campaign, telling the whole family Amelia is senile. The photo taken without her permission. The Facebook post begging for pity and money, and the attempt to access her bank account last Friday. Ryan's head snapped up, his eyes wide. What? I didn't. Valerie looked away, her jaw tight. It was you. Ryan's voice, cold and broken, was one I'd never heard him use before. We needed the money, Valerie spat, turning on him. They're going to evict us from the apartment. And so you were going to steal from my mother? Ryan was shaking, his body vibrating with a desperate energy. Your mother has money and we have nothing because we lost it all on your stupid ideas. Ryan stood towering over her, tears welling in his eyes. The pyramid scheme was your idea. We're going to be rich. We just need the initial investment, you said. I believed you. And now we are ruined because of you. Don't put this all on me. You wanted the easy money too. Valerie's voice was a furious hiss. But I didn't want to steal from my mother. That was your idea. Valerie stood frozen, glaring at him with pure hatred. And in that terrifying moment, I saw something I never thought I would witness. Ryan choosing. He turned to me, tears streaming down his face. Mum, I'm so sorry. Ryan, no. Let me say it, please. He dropped to his knees before me, literally. I have been the worst son in the world. I used you. I lied to you. I stole from you. I let her treat you like trash, and all of it because it was easier than facing my own failures. I am so ashamed of myself, of what I did to you, of what I allowed. And if you never forgive me, I understand. But I need you to know that I love you, that I finally understand everything you sacrificed for me, and I wasted it. All of it. Valerie rose, her eyes slits. Ryan didn't flinch. Are you seriously going to grovel like this? Yes, he responded, his gaze fixed on some point beyond her. Because she deserves it. And you and I, we need serious help. We can't keep going like this. His voice was a flat, unyielding line. I already filed for divorce. A gasp caught in Valerie's throat. What? Her face, moments ago sneering, contorted in disbelief. This morning, before we came here, I spoke to a lawyer. I can't do this anymore, Valerie. This isn't a marriage. It's a toxic partnership that's killing all of us. The disbelief curdled into pure hatred. Valerie snatched her purse, the leather strap, groaning. You are going to regret this, Ryan. He met her gaze, a weary resignation settling over his features. I already regret a lot of things. This won't be one of them. She stormed out, the door slamming like a gavel against the silence. Her expensive perfume, cloying and sweet, lingered in the air, a ghost of her presence. The notary, a small man in a charcoal suit, quietly excused himself to the kitchen, leaving only the soft hum of the refrigerator. Cecilia, my sister, closed the folder in her lap, the snap echoing in the sudden stillness. Ryan, she began, her voice a balm. What are you going to do now? He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of profound weariness. I don't know. Get a job. A real job, not some crazy scheme. Find a small apartment I can afford, and try to be a better father to my kids. A better son, if Mum will let me. His eyes, red-rimmed and bloodshot, found mine, waiting, no longer demanding. Did you really file for divorce? I asked, the words barely a whisper. Yes. He nodded, a slow, deliberate movement. I've known for 2 weeks I had to, but I was scared. Not today. I rose from my chair, the springs groaning in protest, and walked toward him. He tensed, bracing himself as if anticipating a slap. Instead, I wrapped my arms around him. He crumpled, a dam breaking, sobs racking his body as he clung to me. It was the wail of a lost boy, raw and unrestrained. Forgive me, Mom. Forgive me. Forgive me, he choked out. I forgive you, son, I whispered into his hair, the words a gentle balm. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or going back. If you want to be my son again, you're going to have to build it, day by day, with actions. Do you understand? Yes. And I am going to have boundaries. Firm ones. I am not giving you any more money. You are not living here. I will love you. but I will also protect myself. I understand. You deserve that. We stood there just holding each other as Cecilia watched from afar, a sad, knowing smile playing on her lips. The next few months were a strange landscape of small victories and quiet adjustments. Ryan, against all odds, found a job as a manager at a hardware store. It wasn't glamorous, but the $4,000 a month provided a solid foundation. He rented a small, decent one-bedroom apartment, a far cry from his previous life, but his own. The kids, Luna and Mason, started visiting me every other weekend, their presence a soft breeze of normalcy. Cecilia, ever practical, drew up a co-parenting agreement, legal and binding, with set visiting hours. It was the only way. The first time Luna came over after everything, she hugged me for 10 minutes straight, her small body trembling. "I missed you so much, Grandma." "And I missed you, my love," I murmured, stroking her hair. Mason, 13, was more cautious, a shadow of the wounds he'd witnessed clouding his eyes. "Grandma?" "Yes, sweetheart." I knelt, meeting his gaze. Are you really going to forgive Dad?" "I already have forgiven him," I explained softly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was. It means I stopped carrying around the anger. Do you understand?" He hesitated. I think so." Slowly, painstakingly, Mason began to open up again. Luna, bless her, never stopped being affectionate. Valerie, a hurricane force, simply vanished from the picture. The divorce, predictably messy, was finalized. She got her car. Ryan got the debts, the children, and shared custody. With Paige in the house, life took on a new, unexpected rhythm. She cooked when I was tired, her movements easy and efficient in my kitchen. I helped her study just as I would my own granddaughter. "Mrs. Amelia," she said one evening, her voice hushed with gratitude. "Thank you for letting me stay here, not just for the room, but for making me feel like family." "You are family now, Paige," I replied, the words ringing true. One afternoon, Paige came to me with an idea, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. What if we turned part of the garage into a workshop? For crafts, embroidery, knitting, painting. We could give classes to ladies in the neighborhood, charge a small fee. I can help you organize it. The idea sparked something in me I hadn't known was dormant. 3 months later, Amelia's workshop opened its doors. We started with 5 students. By the second month, we had 12, bringing in $100 to $200 a month. It wasn't about the money. It was about the laughter, the stories, the company. It was about feeling useful, alive, me again. 6 months after it all began on a Saturday afternoon, the doorbell chimed. It was Ryan, alone. No suitcases, no demands. He held a small potted lavender plant. "I know you like the smell," he said simply. "And I wanted, I don't know, to bring you something that grows. As a symbol." A smile touched my lips. "Come in." We sat in the living room, me in my rocking chair, him on the sofa, the lavender scent beginning to fill the air. "How's work?" I asked. "Good. I got promoted to supervisor. That's $500 more a month, and I finished paying off one of the credit cards." "I'm glad, son." I started therapy. Individual. It's hard but necessary." "That's very brave." "I learned from you." We sat in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. "Mom, can I ask you something?" he ventured. "Of course." "How did you know it was time to say enough? How did you find that strength?" I thought for a moment, tracing the worn wood of my rocking chair. I didn't find it. It was always there. It was just buried under years of fear and guilt and the need to please. But when I finally dug it up, I realized I had never been weak. I had just been dormant. Ryan nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you." "No," I said firmly, but with love. "You're going to spend the rest of your life being the best version of yourself. Not for me. For you, for your children. That is the only compensation I want." He rose to leave. At the door he turned, his gaze soft. I love you, Mom. I love you too, son. Always. That night I sat in my rocking chair. Cecilia was visiting, sipping wine on the sofa. Paige was in her room, studying, the soft glow of her lamp visible under the door. You know the strangest part of all this, I said to my sister. Cecilia looked at me expectantly. What? For years, I thought losing Ryan would be the end of my world. But when I lost him, when I closed that door, I discovered there was a whole universe waiting for me on the other side. Cecilia raised her glass. To the universes we discover, she toasted, when we close the right doors. We clinked glasses. I looked around. My house. It smelled like lavender. It sounded like the laughter from the workshop that would be here next week. It felt like home. It wasn't perfect. Ryan and I were still healing. The kids were still processing their parents' divorce. Valerie still talked badly about me on Facebook, though no one paid attention anymore. But I was at peace, because I had done the hardest thing a mother can do. I chose myself, without stopping loving my son. And it turned out both things could exist at the same time. 1 year later, the workshop was bustling, alive with the sound of 15 women of all ages. They embroidered, laughed, shared coffee and pastries. Ryan arrived with the kids, a regular weekend ritual now. Grandma, look what I made in school, Luna beamed, thrusting a drawing of a house with flowers into my hands. It's beautiful, my love. It's your house with your garden, because it's the prettiest house in the world. Mason, 13 and fully entrenched in his teenage years, sat beside me without being asked. Grandma, my teacher assigned us a project to interview someone important to us. Can I interview you? Me? My eyebrows rose. Yeah, he said, his eyes serious, because I want to write about the bravest person I know. My eyes filled with tears, a warmth blooming in my chest. It would be an honor, sweetheart. That night, after everyone had gone, I walked out to the garden. The roses I had replanted were now in glorious full bloom. The bougainvillea climbed the wall, a riot of colour. Lavender scented the cool air. I sat on the bench Cecilia had given me, a small plaque affixed to its back, for Amelia, who got her garden and her life back. I looked up at the stars, and for the first time in decades, I didn't think about what I had lost. I thought about everything I had gained. My dignity, my peace, my home, my relationship with Cecilia, a new friend in Paige, a workshop full of women who called me teacher, a healthier, real relationship with my son, the pure love of my grandchildren. Above all, I had won myself back. I closed my eyes and breathed deep. The air smelled of damp earth and flowers, and I smiled. True wealth, I realized, isn't what you own. It's what you refuse to let anyone take from you. And I had reclaimed the most valuable thing of all, my right to live in peace in my own home, simply being me. Sometimes the happy ending isn't going back to what you had. It's discovering you deserved something so much better.